lawyers want to stay in control, and they feel like other people can't do it as well as them. You're not willing to let go. I think it's the perfectionist side of us that wants to stay in control, do it yourself. I can tell you, going through this motion is that actually when I hand it off and I get somebody focused in on that one specific ongoing task, they could actually do it much better than me. You got to stay patient. I usually give them a couple of weeks, let them make mistakes. I don't make them feel bad about it. And through experience, you just have to give other people trust. And the more trust that you give to other people, the more that comes back to you. There's so many limiting beliefs. Well, I don't trust, how do you give passwords to other people? How do you trust them to give them your Google Docs, all this stuff? It's like, just stop, let it go, trust other people, and be able to, delegate as much as you can.
The future is here, but it's unevenly distributed. Right now, as we start to return to normalcy at the end of the COVID-19 pandemic, we're starting to pick up the lessons that we should have learned years ago. How can we delegate and distribute more work off our plate so that things get done faster and more consistently? This week, we're talking with Sam Mollaei. He has started and currently runs 7 virtual law firms. He's served over 7,000 legal clients, gathering over 2,500 5-star Google reviews. Sam will be sharing his secrets for how he's built these practices and the things to watch out for. One of the things that had confused me, but we get into more, is even though these are virtual and automated, it doesn't mean that everything is being done by robots. There's still plenty of space for us to deliver the services we want to. Stick around to the end because Sam will be sharing a lot of the secrets and tips he's used to build out these virtual law practices. I'm John Strohmeyer, and this is the 5-Star Counsel Podcast. The market for legal services is shifting, and lawyers who don't adapt will be left behind. This podcast gives you a competitive edge in today's market by sharing in the client service lessons you probably didn't learn in law school or in law practice. Let's start the show. Hey 5-Star listeners, before we start, I want to tell you about our amazing sponsor, Smith AI. Smith AI is a virtual receptionist service for small businesses with a specialty in working with solo and small law firms. I signed up with them within weeks of starting my firm because they are affordable for even the smallest solo practice. Their friendly receptionists respond to potential clients in Spanish or English, screen and schedule new leads, and can even take payments. And now they're answering calls 24 hours a day. So even when you're asleep, they're still working. Even beyond the phone, they've got live agents and chatbots ready to capture leads on your website, by text, and by Facebook Messenger. Smith's friendly gatekeepers can staff your front lines so you can work uninterrupted. You can finally have the peace of mind that while you're working, you're not missing out on future work. Plans start at just $70 a month for calls and $100 a month for chats. Smith AI is offering a free trial, and our podcast listeners get an extra $100 discount code with promo code 5-STAR. That's FIVESTAR. Sign up and learn more at www.smith.ai. Don't let another day go by. Try Smith AI. Hey, Sam. It's great to have you here today.
Thank you so much, John. I'm so super excited to be here.
Sam, I can't even remember the first time we interacted. Well, I think the first time we interacted was following Moshe's thing earlier this year, but I've obviously seen you around. I've seen your, success using Russell Brunson's methods, which nobody can see my stack of Russell Brunson secrets books. But there's a lot of great marketing in there. But what he gets at to even more is building off the Tim Ferriss, the 4-hour work week, and that's all in quotes, because it's all about driving consistency. How can we make things consistent for owners, employees, and clients to make it easy for everybody? So we have time today. There's a lot to talk about. I have a bunch of questions for you, but where do you want to start?
Let's talk about virtual automated law firms, because that's where I feel like that's where the future is heading. That's where we are right now, and that's where it's heading.
And so, I'll call you the undisputed king because I don't know anybody else who's got more automated law firms than you. I think you've got 6 at this point.
6 and a couple, popping every week. New ones are popping up because the reason is just because it's the same formula over and over. Basically, once you forgot the formula, let's go replicate it. So we'll talk about that. We'll open up the box today a little bit to kind of explain what that means. What is that virtual automated law firm? What are the benefits of it? What makes it so magical? And hopefully that will inspire a bunch of your listeners to be able to go create their own virtual automated law firm.
Right. And so when you say you're 6 already, you're licensed in California.
Correct.
Are all 6 of these firms in California, or are you picking up different firms in different states?
There are some that are in California, and then also there's a bunch of them that are done through referrals or different types of relationships, client generation, lead generation, things like that.
Okay, so and are they all the same practice area? Because it started, as I know, from just business formations once you got out of law school.
Yeah, no, definitely different practice areas. I usually don't like getting into details of exactly what practice areas it is because it's one of the secret sauces, finding those amazing niches. But the big picture is I'm not a business lawyer. I'm a problem solver in my niche. So that's the overarching kind of secret sauce. I solve problems. I'm not a specific type of lawyer. So I always have that in mind. What is the number one problem that your dream clients have? And then your content and your ads and everything is about addressing that specific problem.
And that obviously makes it much easier for you if you know what you're doing. Now, I've said this before and mostly on this podcast, but in plenty of other places. Clients come to us to move the needle on a problem. And without getting you to tell us which problems you're solving, you figured out a handful of problems to solve quickly. And I'm guessing it requires a minimum of effort for you if you're running 6 of these firms, but minimum lawyer time. Kind of, what is the problem, roughly speaking, like?
So the secret sauce is you need to address one problem. That means your dream clients could have multiple problems, but you pick the top one that are in highest demand. So in legal fund, I explain a perfect offer is high demand, has high urgency. That means they need you right away, and premium pricing, which means the value of the client is high. So that means anything less than $1,000. If your clients are less than $1,000, you're gonna have a really hard time scaling up. But if it's above $5,000, then your marketing becomes easy because now you have money to be able to spend to be able to go get that $5,000 client. So have that in mind. Again, high demand, high urgency, premium pricing. So as long as it checks that off, then I use very specific tools such as Google Trends, Google Keyword Planner, Answer the Public, these types of tools to see if there's a demand there, there's enough people searching for it. That's one way to kind of know. I also go on Facebook ad library to see if there's some competitors doing Facebook ads. Big picture is, I can tell you for your audience, 70-80% of your clients will come from one of two sources, either Google or Facebook. So don't waste time doing anything else. Just go figure out which one will work for me, either Google ads or Facebook ads. And everything that I do is based on those two sources. And then go check out, see what's going on. What are my competitors doing? Learn from that, and then go create a better funnel, better system to be able to generate those leads. Okay, so I always try to capture those leads up front. Then I use a lot of automation, such as automated emails, automated videos, to be able to nurture those leads and then get them to take my desired action, which for lawyers, it's one of two things, either scheduled booking, scheduled call, or give me a direct call. So all that automations it's basically automatically doing that. And that basically I have one team that's set up to be able to retain the clients. So I have a retainer team. And then once the client is retained, then there's another team that handles serving the clients, whether it be transactional or be with contingency, whatever that is. Then you have like your lead lawyer who kind of manages the virtual team that can handle the rest. That's the recipe. Very, very short summary of it is. And it's like, once you get that formula down, okay, well, my leads come from Google and Facebook, create those ads, send them to the funnel to be able to generate those leads, use the automation to automatically follow up with those leads, sign them up, then hand it off to the next team.
Right. So, we'll start with kind of the obvious place where things could break down is going to be that call scheduling. Everything before that, you've done some digging to figure out what you're going to offer and whatever that looks like. The funnel, the leads, the videos, the nurturing, once you've, beat your head against the rock the first time to figure out what that looks like, you film your videos and you've got that in place. Well, once you're scheduling that call, most of the people listening here are going to say, oh God, now we've got to get a lawyer involved to handle that call, because potential clients who are going to be spending over $5,000, the first thing they want to do is talk to a lawyer, right?
Not necessarily. No, it does not have to be a lawyer. It has to be somebody who can qualify the leads, and you don't have to provide legal advice on these calls. You just have to qualify them to see whether they qualify to become a client. Then if they do, and you can have different people doing this. Either they're called virtual closers. Closers are just people who do sales that could do this for you, or You could have virtual assistants that could do this for you. Again, not providing any legal advice, but qualify them. Kind of figure out what is your pain point through questions. What's your pain point? Why do you need this? Well, great. That's where a law firm can help you with. All you have to do is sign this retainer agreement, and you're signed up. And I know there's going to be some listeners. Well, it's not that easy. I'm in employment law, and you have to qualify the leads further, all that stuff. Yes, if that's the case, then you have to fill out a more thorough intake. Those intake answers could be provided to the lawyers. The lawyer can give the green light. Yes, I understand that. But everything that I share, I always get pushback. Well, it's not as easy as you make it that sound to be, but it is because it just whenever your mind comes up like starts questioning things, it just means it's a sign for you that you haven't thought through it yet. That doesn't mean just because you think it's not possible doesn't mean it's not doable. Like you gotta work through it. And I've gone through this multiple times. You just have to fight through it. You gotta figure out another angle, another way to do it. So qualify them, sign them up.
Right. And I mean, one of the things on this is everybody's practice is going to be different. And it doesn't mean, I know roughly where my clients are coming from. I know most of them are not coming from the internet. They come from other referrals, but it doesn't mean I don't want to have a process in place to pick up folks who come through just organic traffic. And so even if I like keeping my hands dirty in my practice, or I need to for legal reasons, I only know one of your 6 firms, I think, maybe. It doesn't mean that every practice is going to be fully automated. Because, I'll make a guess that you're probably not doing complex M&A work as one of your 6, and we'll edit out whatever you don't want to say.
Yeah, sure. The legal work, you may need to do the legal work. This is everything outside of that legal work that you got to automate or delegate or eliminate. So if there's parts of it that you got to do yourself, by all means, do that. Or even the next level, go hire another lawyer that can handle that legal work for you while you work on creating the business, generating the clients, and creating the systems behind it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's really the key is you're going to automate as much as possible, and not every practice is going to be fully automated with us just drinking Mai Tais on the beach. Now, we'd like more of that, with more things going virtual. Nobody can see where I am right now. You can see my background, but I may have dressed up my Tahitian bungalow just to look like this. So I really like that you're still going to be involved if you want to, and it still makes sense. It's not if you don't turn into a robot lawyer, you're failing.
Correct. Yeah. I actually had a training about this a couple of weeks ago called How to Hire Virtual Assistants to Delegate 95% of Your Tasks. And the very first thing I did in this training was for you to write down all the tasks that you're working on a daily basis, whether they fall into 4 different zones. The first zone is the drudgery zone, which is the stuff that you don't like and you're not necessarily good at. So what are those tasks? Write that down. The next zone is like the disinterest zone, which is stuff that you're good at, but you don't necessarily like. Write those down. Next zone is I forgot what the name of it was, but it's stuff that you like that you're not necessarily good at, the vice versa of the last one that I just mentioned. And then the last one is your desired zone, which is the zone that where you want to be, which is doing the stuff that you're good at that you like. That's like the ultimate zenith place where you want to be. So for everybody, that's different. Some people like the legal work. Some people like doing the marketing. Some people like doing the website. Some people do, whatever that is, the different components of it. The answer is you want to work in your desired zone and be able to delegate, automate, and eliminate the 75% of the other tasks that you're working on. That's basically the magic answer where you want to be. That's the 4-hour work week.
Yeah. And it's what we keep coming back to with guests in different ways and in different versions of this is how do you get the stuff off your plate that doesn't make sense for you? Because if you're doing if you're reconciling all the books, if you're doing data entry, I can do data entry. I shouldn't. And that's why I'm happy to delegate out as much as possible. Like I'm good at data entry, but I don't like it. So that disinterested, aggravating, infuriating work. It was also something that I'd been thinking about in terms of it's a low return because my functional capacity, my valuable capacity, like I'm barely replacement level there. But if I'm working on client stuff, I'm going to be generating more revenue doing that work and not reconciling books.
Exactly. And in the training, I called it like the Oprah effect. How could Oprah do so much, which has the same amount of hours that we do? So it's because she's able to figure out exactly what she's good at. She only does that. And then she's able to hand off everything else. She's able to leverage her time wisely. So it's about leveraging our time.
And that's right. Oprah can't do it all, but she generated this structure to get her prepared for shows so that she could focus on the important parts. And there are parts of onboarding that, depending on your practice area, you need to maybe, like for my estate planning clients, I like being involved because I still want to be involved, and my clients, my best clients, are the ones who still want to talk to me. But it doesn't mean I can't have somebody call them first who isn't a lawyer and ask them some of the basic questions, because getting the objective information about them, what's your name? What do you own? Where's your stuff? There's no magic to me having gotten that information from them. But if I can get that information 5 minutes before the call, I can sound much better on that call. Or I might be able to divert them to a different firm if they don't fit for us. Again, coming back to the knowing who your clients are, high demand, high urgency, premium pricing. That's your formula. I've got a pretty focused demand. Urgency is always weird for estate planning because, I like to say it's third order concern. People will show up and we have, months, if not years. Like I just signed up a client I started talking to 5 years ago. That's rarely high urgency unless somebody's literally dying. But knowing that we've got something in place because we're going to keep nurturing them along the way. We've got the now monthly email updates where we're emailing them all the time. And so I'm not worried if somebody loses urgency. If they call once and then drop off, we're going to find them again. Like we're going to at least stay on. And if they unsubscribe, that's fine. We're out an email we were sending to anybody anyway.
Exactly. As you said, yeah, great job, by the way. Yeah, that's what it takes. Because if you don't have that automated follow-up system that you're consistently once a week, at the very least once a week, if not once a month, I think it's too far apart to follow up with your past people who have said no to you, then you're probably losing out on 80% of your clients that could potentially sign up with you in the future. And then two, as you mentioned, estate planning does inherently miss that urgency. However, that means you got to create that urgency through the right questions. Whenever you do talk to get these prospects on the phone, ask the right questions to get them to answer why it's so important for them to do this right away on this phone call.
Right. I mean, I like that because ultimately we're trying to convince them that, or trying to make sure they understand why it's important to do this work. They didn't call us for no reason. And if they seem to have forgotten halfway through our call, we've struggling with the words here. Like we're making it worse for them if they had a problem and then we've talked them out of a problem that we could help with.
Correct. And the issue is the lawyers try to communicate that themselves. No, you shouldn't be the one to explain that to them. Let them tell you why it's important for them to sign up with you this week. So do it through questions. It's like sales 101. Ask the right questions and let them tell you why it's so important for them to sign up with you this week.
Right, because it's something that previous guest Jonathan Stark has discussed, and I can't remember if we said it in the interview, but there are 3 questions he wants out of every first call to be answered by the client. Why this? Why me? And why now? Which gets exactly to what you're saying, but putting it in a different word. And the clients will give you the words if they have them, and you can suggest. You may be able to suggest around it. But again, part of your job is to let them do that work for you.
Do you mind, John, share those 3 questions again because they're very powerful.
Yes. So why this? Meaning, what are we doing? What needle can we possibly move? Why me? Meaning the person you're potentially going to hire. And why now? Because if you can get those words coming out of their mouth instead of, hey, I'm great and I'm in the cool kids club for estate planners and eventually you're going to die and you don't want to leave a mess behind, they'll kind of resonate with it. But if it says, I don't want to leave a mess for my kids, I want things to be cleared up with my kids, great. I can continue to refer back to those words when we're doing the process. Like, hey, you wanted to not leave a mess. Hey, you wanted things to be streamlined. Hey, you didn't want any curveballs for your clients. And, those are just the ones coming off the top of my head. And this has now become the John monologue show with Sam grinning along.
Sales 101 right there. Those 3 questions. If you can, all your listeners that are listening right now, take those 3 questions, write out 2 or 3 for each, print that out, put it right next to your desk. And every time you talk to your prospect, go to those questions. You guys will probably double your sign-up rates by asking those questions.
And I mean, it's the sort of thing that when you go back to my website and even throughout the copy that we've got in our email sequences, we're hitting on it in different ways to make sure they know it, even if we're not saying, why me? they are at least getting some answers from us so that they've got some ideas, because I want to make it easy for them to understand why I'm the expert in this. And, if they call up with a construction dispute, I want it also very easy for them to say, oh, John doesn't know what the hell he's doing when it comes to construction disputes. We should probably call somebody else. Yeah. Well, this has been it's been a great interview of me by you.
Good value.
Yeah. So, you were talking about training virtual assistants. And I think it's worth coming back to this because I agree, this is where people are going to be growing. We're getting more people. Part of my training strategy, and it goes back to something we talked about with Eric Pelton last year, of getting law students, college kids, and even high schoolers in earlier, because parts of what we do, anybody can do. It doesn't matter that you've got the legal degree. But if I can, the summer challenge for us is, can we get high schoolers to come in, read a will, and tell us what it says and what the tax consequences are in 2 weeks? Because if we can do that, guess what? I can, that's called a paralegal. So what are you doing to set up your training?
So every law firm needs to have a standard of operations Google document. What I internally call it is an onboarding protocol, which is essentially a Google Doc with a set of instructions, with words, and with Loom videos, LOOM, which are just a quick way for you to make videos on your computer, that provides very clear instructions exactly what your law firm does and how you do specific things in your law firm. So that way, every virtual assistant that gets hired, the very first thing I do, I will send them to this Google Doc. Usually takes about 2 days for them to just go through this Google Doc, watch all the videos that they need to watch. And by them completing and watching these videos, they'll be able to pretty much learn how to do anything. So every time I teach anything, I just have a rule of thumb, I record it. I don't do any training without recording it. And as soon as I record it, I take that link, put it into the onboarding protocol, and it's sitting there, so that way when I hire the next virtual assistants, they're just sent to this Google Doc. It works like magic. It's great. At this point, I don't do any training, personal training. Everything's just, for the most part, I've already created those instructions before. I just send people there.
Excellent. So, what I hear in that is the standards. You're calling them the standards for your firm. This is how you behave and what we're doing for clients. So you're setting the expectation. We're not generic law firm. We're here to move the needle on this one specific problem for these specific clients. Is that fair?
Correct, but you got to create the structure for them. So that means you got to create the templates, the sequences, the labelings inside of Gmail, all that stuff. There's a lot of work that goes in the middle, but you got to create that structure, and then you provide instructions based on that structure. When this happens, do this. When this happens, do this. And there's also the other aspect of it is you need to create some kind of tracking mechanism, such as a Google Sheet, just say where every VA has very specific tasks that they need to complete. You take those tasks, you create different columns, such as, if you're going to just say, keep track of this on a daily basis, your first column is the date. Your second one is maybe every time you complete this, put an X here. Every time you complete this, put an X here. And that way you'll be able to also manage them to make sure that they're completing their goals and their tasks they need to accomplish.
Right, because then you're setting it up so they know if they've done their job. It's pretty clear. It's not just, hey, do whatever we tell you. It's every day we need you to execute on 5 new email sequences sent, or whatever it may be.
And keep track of that. Put in in 5, the number 5, how many emails you sent out today. Put it in there. That way on Friday I could check on your work and make sure you're completing it.
Right. So Sam, how many years have you been doing this?
7 years now. Time is flying by. I can't believe it. I pretty much started on this journey not knowing anything. I was challenged where I basically had to figure out how to get clients online. So I had no choice. I kind of had my back behind the wall and started learning, reading a lot of books, watching a lot of YouTube videos, and just implementing. And, my first year was very tough. I didn't make that much money. I think I made $18,000 my first year. And then, I think that's something I learned through this experience, is that the work you do now, it usually takes 6 to 12 months for that result to come back. So I just, my focus is just doing. I don't care about the results. I don't care about how much money I make. As long as I'm doing what I like and I'm working in my desired zone, that's all I care about. At this point, I could care less about the money. I could care less about anything else. As long as I'm working in my desired zone.
Excellent. So when you got started those years ago, what's the one thing you wish you knew that you know now that you should have known back then?
You can't grow unless if you get other people involved. In the first 3 4 years was pretty much on me, answering all of my emails, answering the phone calls, being able to serve the clients, getting Google reviews, doing the marketing, the social media posts, blogging, everything. And then I had a mentor who came in 3 years ago and kind of exposed me. No, you need to be able to create systems, create teams, people behind you, so that be able to grow and scale from that point on. And that's actually one of the biggest problems that I see with lawyers. Not that I do legal funnel, I talk to so many lawyers through applications. I see their applications and just come in. I get on Zooms with a lot of lawyers, and that's the number one problem that I see the most lawyers having right now in 2021 is doing everything themselves. Being the bottleneck of your own law firm.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing is, again, I worked at a hotel with hundreds of locations. The guy who founded the hotel did it 60 plus years ago. He hasn't checked anybody in decades, and it didn't matter. He knew if he had shown up at the Austin property, I would have done just fine. And I'd never met him or any of the first 10,000 employees, but they were able to get it going for me. So what do you think? What's the biggest misunderstanding? I mean, it sounds like, look, I can do it all myself, but there's probably another way of putting it. Like, what do people misunderstand a lot?
People think lawyers want to stay in control, and that they feel like other people can't do it as well as them. You're not willing to let go. I think it's the perfectionist side of us that wants to stay in control, do it yourself. I can tell you, going through this motion is that actually when I hand it off and I get somebody focused in on that one specific ongoing task, they could actually do it much better than me. You got to stay patient. I usually give them a couple of weeks, let them make mistakes. I don't make them feel bad about it. And through experience, you just have to give other people trust. And the more trust that you give to other people, the more that comes back to you. There's so many limiting beliefs. Well, I don't trust, how do you give passwords to other people? How do you trust them to give them your Google Docs, all this stuff? It's like, just stop, let it go, trust other people, and be able to, delegate as much as you can. The more you be able to delegate, the more money you make, and the more your law firm will grow. So be willing to let go.
Yeah, I really like that. What you said in there was they're going to get better at it than you are. And here's the surprising corollary. If you've worked for somebody else, I've worked for other lawyers at 3 different firms. I did the best I could there, and now I'm working for myself. Inherent in that is, and it's probably true for all the other lawyers who have left somewhere else, you thought you could do it better. It wasn't just some pure money grab. It was, I've got ideas on how to run this practice better, and I'm going to try and do it that way. The only way you can get to that is thinking that the people who had trained you, it's not that they didn't do their best. It's you got better at something than they did.
Exactly. Yeah. When people need focus, when somebody becomes focused on something, then that's where expertise comes in. So, you're doing 30 different things. You can't be great at 30 different things, but if you can hand over, 5 of those things, then they'll be able to do those 5 things much better than you being spread too thin across those 30 things.
Yeah. I mean, that's so good. So with those 35 things, where's the first step? Like, what's the first thing we should be doing when we get started?
Watch the training that explains when I did a couple of weeks ago about how to figure out what your desire zone is and what it's everything else. It starts from there. You need to put that down on paper to know what that is with clarity. And once you get that clarity, then you got to figure out how to be able to delegate it out and automate it out. And then, slowly you work towards it. It's not something like you just do once and that's it. You're always constantly striving towards it, and you're working towards it. And then and one practical advice I can also give to your listeners is a lot of people wait for them to get overburdened, or for them to feel like they need to hire. You always want to hire 6 months ahead. You want to hire based on where you want to be in 6 months, not where you are right now. Okay, a lot of people wait for that. Don't wait. Hire based on where you want to be in 6 months. Okay, your actions should be where you want to be in 6 months, not where you are right now. So have that in mind. It's a breakthrough. Like, wait, maybe I should. Maybe this is where I want to grow to. Okay, if I want to grow to that, then I need to start acting like it right now.
Excellent. Sam, I think that's a great place to cut things off for right now. We will have a link to your training. Where else can people find you online?
Sure. So I'm all about sharing value. I see the world as the more the more value you create to the world, the more good things happen to your life. So if you just search Facebook for Legal Funnel Members, I have a Facebook group for lawyers where I teach lawyers about all these ideas about how to grow and automate your virtual law firm. You could also Google me. You could Also Google legal funnel. And yeah, once you kind of fall into the legal funnel, then you kind of get exposed to my videos and concepts and things like that. And then you get retargeted for the next 16 years. And then you'll probably join the program either this year or next year. But I'm all about giving, these concepts are, super intriguing, super interesting. And I just see the top 1 or 2% of lawyers kind of understanding and implement these things. But I definitely see the world going towards this, automated virtual again law firm. So the sooner you learn these concepts and apply it for yourself, the better it will be. The new frontier of these young lawyers who know what they're doing is coming in. So you want to be kind of stay on top of it, stay on top of that wave, so that as it's rushing in, takes over the entire scene, you want to take advantage of it. So join in, just search legal funnel either on Facebook, on Google, and join the fun.
Excellent. Sam, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, John. And I appreciate everything you do to your audience. So much value you provide. So I want to pray for you to continue doing this, and may your audience continue to grow, and may all that value that you create to the world come back to you.
Thanks, Sam.
Got it.
Thanks so much for listening. You can find more info on us and get your free white paper on client service at 5starcounsel.com. You can get in touch with me at john@5starcounsel.com. If you enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe wherever fine podcasts are found and leave us a review wherever you can.